Okay, so next we've got task 2 essay, discuss both views, and then also probably give your opinion. I don't know if that's missing. So usually the structure goes introduction, side B, some people think A, some people think B, and then your conclusion. Okay, so I always tell there's very rarely any need to write more than 4 paragraphs in an IELTS task 2 essay. You don't have time. If you're writing 5 or 6 paragraphs, it means you're not spending enough time editing or doing detail or thinking about what you're going to write. So I always recommend a 4 paragraph structure. So let's look at the topic. Some people believe that there should be fixed punishments for each type of crime. Others, however, argue that the circumstances of an individual crime and the motivation for committing it should always be taken into account when deciding on the punishment. Okay, so does it matter about why you committed the crime? Should that be taken into account? Or no matter if you killed someone in self-defense or you killed them because you're a psychopath, should the punishment both be the same? So kind of an interesting topic. I think there's lots of different things, lots of nice vocab you can use. So let's see what this candidate has gone. So if you look at their introduction, some argue that fixed punishment should be applied in any crime should be applied to any crime. Or if they're going to do multiples, it apply to all crimes. Okay, that would be the other way to say it. While others claim that lawbreakers' backgrounds should be considered before deducing proper penalties. Deducing, they're trying to use a sort of higher level word here, but the meaning doesn't quite fit. And so it would be sort of like, should be considered before sentencing or judgment would be better before sentencing rather than deducing proper penalties. On a personal level, I would side with the latter. Okay, so they've given me background information, they've given me an opinion. The only thing that I like to see in my introductions, I've said it a million times before, is subtopics. I always recommend to my students that they do the sentence like due to blank, I believe blank. Okay, due to this reason, I believe this opinion. Okay, and then this is going to be what you're going to talk about in your body 1 or body 2. Okay, so in the coherence and cohesion mark scheme, it talks about there's a sense of building or a sense of progression in your essay. And part of that is signposting. You tell me in your introduction, I'm going to talk about this topic. You explain it in detail in your essay, and then you summarize it again in your conclusion. Okay, that's progression. That's saying I'm going to take you there. You take me there, okay? Rather than sort of surprising me. So that's why I think subtopics are important. If anyone ever goes to the study in the UK and you're sort of doing academic papers, it's a very important thing to do in your introduction. Is to give, a signpost about what you're going to talk about. Okay, so that's the only other thing I would like to say in this introduction. We've got a slight issue of vocabulary here, but overall structure seems fine. There are both advantages and drawbacks for conducting a standard sentence. For implementing. Conducting is more like carrying out or doing something. Like I conducted my class, kind of. But implementing is putting something into practice. So for implementing a sentence would be to come up with the sentence and then carry it out. So it's better fit here than conducting. Firstly, it could not only accelerate court proceedings, but could also economize the allocated budget from governments. There are a penalty of severe cases should be handled on a daily basis from courtrooms with limited human resources as well as insufficient budget. I think they're trying to say plenty here. There are plenty of severe cases that should be handled on a daily basis from courtrooms with limited human resources as well as insufficient budget. Thus, if there are, nice semicolon, I see you there, semicolon, thus if there are consistent determined laws for any particular crime, it would be helpful to deal with given cases much more efficiently. Okay, this is like a nice sentence. It's quite long, but they've broken it up with some punctuation. This is a nice complex sentence. This is what we like to see to get up to those band 6s and higher. However, from a distant prospect, it does not necessarily mean this measure is desirable to execute. The first reason that the fixed penalty is not in line with the modern legal philosophy trend, emphasizing more on enlightenment and education. Okay, nice vocabulary. Secondly, secure societies must be maintained by individuals' education, not by inflexible regulations. Fixed laws may seem reasonable in some sense, but individuals should be instilled with moral standards and the law-abiding spirit through education for longer-term thinking. Okay, this is interesting. So what this candidate has done is actually quite a sort of a difficult move to pull off in the fact that they've said what some people think, and then they've counterpunched. They've sort of counter-argued against it. They've explained quite well and quite clearly what one of the advantages is, But then they've explained, however, this isn't actually what we want to do. So that's interesting. So I just want to check if they've gone on to, so they clearly sort of agree with the other side. So I think what they've done is quite sophisticated, is that they've said, some people think this, but this is why there's a drawback to this. However, what I would say that they've sort of slightly done incorrect is they've said that people think because it's more economical and it helps save money to do it this way. So when they do, however, it should actually say why it's more expensive to do this. Okay, so the counterpunch needs to be related to the topic that you picked at the start of the paragraph. So in this case, they're saying people think there should be a fixed sentences because it's more economical and it saves money for the government. And then they should say something along the lines of, however, this doesn't actually save money. If we take a criminal's background into consideration, we might be giving shorter sentences. This saves money in the long term by reducing the number of people in prison. So from the short-term view, yes, this could save money, but when we look at the longer-term effect of fixed sentences, it actually increases the prison population and costs the government more money. And then you give an example. A study by the University College London found that governments with fixed penalty punishments spent more on prison services over 10 years than countries without. Okay, so can you see how I linked the topic sentence and the counterpoint together? So that's kind of what you need to be doing. So this candidate has tried that, and I appreciate the effort, but they've gone on to talk about a different topic. So what do? They've talked about enlightenment and education. They've talked about philosophy. They've talked about, education again. Individual freedom. So this makes your essay sound confused because you've got two totally different topics, topic 1 and topic 2 in here. You're sort of, and you see when you're trying to make an argument, can you feel how that doesn't make sense? So it's like arguing with someone about where you're going to go eat. And I might say, let's go get Chinese food tonight because it's just around the corner and the restaurant's much cheaper. And then you counter argue by saying, yes, no, let's go and get pizza because I went to Italy last year. You're like, okay, well, you did go to Italy last year, but it's not really related to my point. You're trying to counter argue by saying why somebody else's point is wrong. So what this kind of has done is they've actually made their argument sound a little bit more confused. And as I'm reading, I'm thinking we've gone on to a different topic, philosophy, individual freedom, and education. So this should really be another paragraph. So that can affect your coherence and cohesion score. Okay. So I appreciate what this candidate has tried to do. They've gone for a sophisticated technique. But what I would have liked to have seen is for them to link it specifically to saving money. Okay. On the other hand, assigning a penalty by evaluating each individual's conditions completely makes sense. I would sort of say background. Yeah. Or circumstances could be another one. Makes sense. People might have violated regulations, but the motivation behind could change your judgment toward it. Yeah, motivation, change judgment. For instance, if there are parents who broke a traffic law due to their children's health emergency, or due to an emergency health condition, or a person stole a loaf of bread because he or she starved to death, was starving. If you starved to death, you're not stealing anything because you're dead. Judges and juries should prudently regard these kind of offenders' emotional stabilities. Judges and juries, nice vocabulary. Particular conditions or any other accessible situations to reach a just and fair verdict. Okay, again, verdict, nice vocabulary. Excellent vocabulary. Vocabulary, gold star. Nice vocab. This is well argued. They've explained it. They've said their point of view. They've given an example, and then they've explained why this example supports their opinion. Okay, so it's given me your point, it's given me your example, and it's given me your explanation. Okay, so this is how we're taught to write essays when we go to school in the UK. Point, example, explain. And the explain part is explain how your example supports your point of view. Okay, so we're always told to P. Make sure you P in your essay. So that's how we're taught in the UK. Conclusion, needless to say that established punishments could contribute to society's welfare. However, it is not recommendable from a long-term perspective. Simultaneously, the judiciary system should be more concerned and flexible when declaring an appropriate verdict according to various wrongdoers' circumstances, since the ultimate goal of society society should pursue is to deter crimes from occurring as opposed to merely punishing. Okay, this is a nice conclusion. I like it a lot. So in terms of overall what I'm thinking in terms of task achievement, this candidate really did quite a good job. They did discuss both views. What I would say is that it was just in that paragraph where it was kind of a little bit confused, perhaps knocked them down a bit. So I would want to give them a sort of an overall 6. And I would just want to say to them to link their counterpoint more specifically. And so that would also affect their coherence and cohesion, which would probably be a 6. In terms of vocabulary, I thought their vocabulary was really great, very strong. And also I thought their grammar was also pretty strong. There wasn't a lot of grammar issues I had to correct as I was going through, for sure. I mean, for sure there was some, but I thought not too bad at all. So for grammar, they used a variety of sentences. I saw those complex sentences in there, so I'd want to give it 6.5. So overall 6.5 for this essay, I think pretty comfortable. And I thought there was a lot of positives going on.